Hello everyone, welcome to my show. I'm the Empath, and today we have Babble. I just got a shower, I'm nice and clean, and ready to read the Bible. So let's start into Genesis chapter 19. When the sinfulness of Sodom. When the two angels came to Sodom that evening, Lot was sitting at the city gate. As soon as he saw them, he got up and went to meet them. He bowed down before them and said, "Sirs, I am here to serve you. Please come to my house. You can wash your feet and spend the night. In the morning you can get up early and go on your way." But they answered, "No, we will spend the night here in the city square." He kept on urging them, and finally they went with him to his house. Lot ordered his servants to bake some bread and prepare a fine meal for the guests. When it was ready, they ate it. Before the guests went to bed, the men of Sodom surrounded the house. All the men of the city, both young and old, were there. They called out to Lot and asked, "Where are the men who came to stay with you tonight? Bring them out to us." The men of Sodom wanted to have sex with them. That's odd. Lot went outside and closed the door behind him. He said to them, "Friends, I beg you, don't do such a wicked thing. Look, I have two daughters who are still virgins. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do whatever you want with them. But don't do anything to these men. They are guests in my house, and I must protect them." But they said, "Get out of our way, you foreigner. Who are you to tell us what to do? Out of our way, or we will treat you worse than them." They pushed Lot back and moved up to break down the door. But the two men inside reached out, pulled Lot back into the house, and shut the door. Then they struck all the men outside with blindness, so they couldn't find the door. Lot leaves Sodom. Alright, that's interesting. The two men said to Lot, "If you have anyone else here, sons, daughters, sons-in-law, or any other relatives living in the city, get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The Lord has heard the terrible accusations against these people, and has sent us to destroy Sodom." Then Lot went to the men that his daughters were going to marry and said, "Hurry up and get out of here. The Lord is going to destroy this place." But they thought he was joking. At dawn the angels tried to make Lot hurry. "Quick," they said, "take your wife and your two daughters and get out, so that you will not lose your lives when the city is destroyed." Lot hesitated. The Lord, however, had pity on him. So the men took him, his wife, and his two daughters by the hand and led them out of the city. Then one of the angels said, "Run for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop in the valley. Run to the hills so that you won't be killed." But Lot answered, "No, please, don't make us do that, sir. You have done me a great favor and saved my life, but the hills are too far away. The disaster will overtake me and I will die before I get there. Do you see that little town? It is near enough. Let me go over there. You can see it is just a small place and I will be safe." He answered, "All right, I agree. I won't destroy that town. Hurry, run. I can't do anything until you get there." Because Lot called it small, the town was named Zoar. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The sun was rising when Lot reached Zoar. Suddenly the Lord rained burning sulfur on the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and destroyed them and the whole valley, along with all the people there, and everything that grew on the land. But Lot's wife looked back and was turned into a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham hurried to the place where he had stood in the presence of the Lord. He looked down at Sodom and Gomorrah and the whole valley, and saw smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a huge furnace. But when God destroyed the cities of the valley where Lot was living, he kept Abraham in mind, and allowed Lot to escape to safety. The origin of the Moabites and Ammonites. Because Lot was afraid to stay in Zoar, he and his two daughters moved up into the hills and lived in a cave. The older daughter said to her sister, "Our father is getting old, and there are no men in the whole world to marry us so that we can have children. Come, let us get our father drunk so that we can sleep with him and have children by him." I will be fair. There are some things in the Bible that do seem a little out of sorts. Then again, if I could justify and say, if you really think about it, we're all related because of Adam and Eve, but that part, that part still sits weird with me. It sat weird with me the first time I read it, and still, still kind of weird. Anyway, that night they gave him wine to drink, and the older daughter had intercourse with him, but he was so drunk that he didn't know it. The next day the older daughter said to her sister, I slept with him last night. Now let's get him drunk again tonight, and you sleep with him. Then each of us will have a child by our father. So that night they got him drunk, and the younger daughter had intercourse with him. Again, he was so drunk that he didn't know it. In this way both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their own father. The older daughter had a son, who she named Moab. He was the ancestor of the present-day Moabites. The younger daughter also had a son, whom she named Benami. He was the ancestor of the present-day Ammonites. And, so yeah, you get, so like in chapter 18, God was talking to Abraham, and he had the angels, and he was going to send them in to basically see if there were good people in Sodom. There really weren't. And don't look at the homosexual aspect. When it talks about homosexual stuff, I'll get more into that, like when it's specifically talking closer to it. But with there, it's talking about, they wanted to have sex with the men. Two problems with that. It's rape. It's just overall it's sexual immorality, because they were going to rape the men, and they were going. It's not a married or loving committed relationship. It's just sex, and sex is supposed to be something intimate, not just something to pleasure. It's pleasurable, but it's supposed to be intimate. We'll get into some of that later on in the Bible as well. But yeah, so God rescued Lot, had the angels rescue Lot, and then apparently his daughters thought to carry on the father's lineage, they would get him drunk and sleep with him. I don't think that's something in the Bible that you should follow after that example. That's, like I said, Bible, especially Old Testament, there's all the setup. It's a storybook. There's setup to later stuff, and it's just stuff that happens in the story. I don't think that there's a lot of teaching stuff going on there. I'm wasting your time. Anyway, chapter 20. Abraham and Abimelech. Abraham moved from Mamre to the southern part of Canaan and lived between Kadesh and Shur. Later, while he was living in Gerar, he said that his wife Sarah was his sister. So King Abimelech of Gerar had Sarah brought to him. One night God appeared to him in a dream and said, "You are going to die, because you have taken this woman. She is already married." But Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, "Lord, I am innocent. Would you destroy me and my people?" Abraham himself said that she was his sister, and she said the same thing. "I did this with a clear conscience, and I have done no wrong." God replied in the dream, "Yes, I know that you did it with a clear conscience, so I kept you from sinning against me and did not let you touch her. But now give the woman back to her husband. He is a prophet, and he will pray for you, so that you will not die. But if you do not give her back, I warn you that you are going to die, you and all your people." Early the next morning, Abimelech called all his officials and told them what had happened, and they were terrified. Then Abimelech called Abraham and asked, "What have you done to us? What wrong have I done to you to make you bring this disaster on me and my kingdom? No one should ever do what you have done to me. Why did you do it?" Abraham answered, "I thought there would be no one here who had reverence for God, and that they would kill me to get my wife. She really is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not of my mother, and I married her. So when God sent me from my father's house into foreign lands, I said to her, You can show how loyal you are to me by telling everyone that I am your brother. Then Abimelech gave Sarah back to Abraham, and at the same time he gave him sheep, cattle, and slaves. He said to Abraham, Here is my whole land. Live anywhere you like. He said to Sarah, I am giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver as proof to all who are with you that you are innocent. Everyone will know that you have done no wrong. Because of what had happened to Sarah, Abraham's wife, the Lord had made it impossible for any woman in Abimelech's palace to have children. So Abraham prayed for Abimelech, and God healed him. He also healed his wife and his slave girls, so that they could have children. Alright, so again, in chapter 20, Abraham is pulling the same sort of cleverness that he pulled with the Pharaoh, and that's to save himself, save his wife, and apparently get rich quick. Yeah. Oh, good for him. Good for, not exactly bad for the other people, because they've got apparently loads of wealth. Anyway, chapter 21. The birth of Isaac. The Lord blessed Sarah as he had promised, and she became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham when he was old. The boy was born at the time God had said he would be born. Abraham named him Isaac, and when Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, as God had commanded. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. Sarah said, God has brought me joy and laughter. Everyone who hears about it will laugh with me. Then she added, Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. The child grew, and on the day that he was weaned, Abraham gave a great feast. Hagar and Ishmael are sent away. One day Ishmael, whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham, was playing with Sarah's son Isaac. Sarah saw them and said to Abraham, Send this slave girl and her son away. The son of this woman must not get any part of your wealth, which my son Isaac should inherit. This troubled Abraham very much, because Ishmael also was his son. But God said to Abraham, Don't be worried about the boy and your slave Hagar. Do whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that you will have the descendants I have promised. I will also give many children to the son of the slave girl, so that they will become a nation. He too is your son. Early the next morning, Abraham gave Hagar some food and a leather bag full of water. He put the child on her back and sent her away. She left and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water was all gone, she left the child under a bush and sat down about 100 yards away. She said to herself, I can't bear to see my child die. While she was sitting there, she began to cry. God heard the boy crying, and from heaven the angel of God spoke to Hagar. What are you troubled about, Hagar? Don't be afraid. God has heard the boy crying. Get up, go and pick him up and comfort him. I will make a great nation out of his descendants. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well. She went and filled the leather bag with water and gave some to the boy. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the wilderness of Paran and became a skilled hunter. His mother got an Egyptian wife for him. The agreement between Abraham and Abimelech. At that time, Abimelech went with Phicol, and the commander of his army, and said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. So make a vow here in the presence of God that you will not deceive me, my children, or my descendants. I have been loyal to you, so promise that you will also be loyal to me and to this country in which you are living. Abraham said, I promise. Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well, which the servants of Abimelech had seized. Abimelech said, I don't know who did this. You didn't tell me about it, and this is the first I have heard of it. Then Abraham gave some sheep and cattle to Abimelech, and the two of them made an agreement. Abraham separated 7 lambs from his flock, and Abimelech asked him, Why did you do that? Abraham answered, Accept these 7 lambs. By doing this you admit that I am the one who dug this well. And so the place was called Beersheba, because it was there that the two of them had made a vow. After they had made this agreement at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol went back to Philistia. Then Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and worshipped the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham lived in Philistia for a long time. Yeah, I'll have time for that. Alright. Chapter 22. God commands Abraham to offer Isaac. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He called to him, Abraham. And Abraham answered, Yes, here I am. Take your son, God said, your only son, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. There on a mountain that I will show you, offer him as a sacrifice to me. Early the next morning, Abraham cut some wood for the sacrifice, loaded his donkey, and took Isaac and 2 servants with him. They started out for the place that God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham saw the place in the distance. Then he said to the servant, Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go over there and worship, and then we will come back to you. Abraham made Isaac carry the wood for the sacrifice, and he himself carried a knife and live coals for starting the fire. As they walked along together, Isaac spoke up. Father, he answered. Yes, my son, Isaac asked. I see that you have the coals and the wood, but where is the lamb for the sacrifice? Abraham answered, God himself will provide one. And the 2 of them walked on together. When they came to the place which God had told him about, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood on it. He tied up his son and placed him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he picked up the knife to kill him. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham! He answered, Yes, here I am. Don't hurt the boy or do anything to him, he said. Now I know that you have obedient reverence for God, because you have not kept back your only son from me. Abraham looked around and saw a ram caught in a bush by its horns. He went and got it and offered it as a burnt offering instead of his son. Abraham names that place, The Lord Provides. And even today people say, On the Lord's mountain he provides. The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven by a 2nd time. I make a vow by my own name, the Lord is speaking, that I will richly bless you. Because you did this and did not keep back your only son from me, I promise that I will give you as many descendants as there are stars in the sky, or grains of sand along the seashore. Your descendants will conquer their enemies. All the nations will ask me to bless them as I have blessed your descendants, all because you obeyed my command. Abraham went back to his servants, and they went together to Beersheba, where Abraham settled. The descendants of Nahor. Here we go. Sometime later, Abraham learned that Milcah had borne 8 children to his brother, Nahor. Uz, the firstborn, Buz, his brother, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Chesed, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel, Rebekah's father. Milcah bore these 8 sons to Nahor, Abraham's brother. Reumah, Nahor's concubine, bore Teba, Gaham, Tehash, and Maacah. Oh, that wasn't that much. Chapter 21, just stuff with Sarah and Isaac, Hagar, pretty self-explanatory. And then chapter 22 is just Abraham was going to sacrifice his son for the Lord. Kind of the whole concept of leap of faith, because God said, Isaac will be the key to your many descendants, and then he says, I want you to sacrifice him to me. It's kind of a big leap. I mean, if you were asked to sacrifice your son, would you do it? You would. Well, that's a very... must be a bad kid. Oh wait, you don't have a son. Well then, how would you know? I'm being random. I love being random. But that's all we have time for today. So yeah. Thanks for watching. Like and favorite if you enjoyed. Subscribe to become a VIP today. And I'll see you all next time. Have a great day.